and welcome to Movies, Films, and Flicks. I am Mark Hoffmeyer, and joining me is Adam Hodgins, who's a man who actually thought about changing his last name to Adam Hodge, but it never went through because Hodge is amazing in Dragonslayer. Adam Hodgins.
And the reason I didn't change it to Hodge was because if you listen to a back episode where we talked about me and Meg doing a cop show called Hoff and Hodge.
Yep.
And I didn't want to play myself in that movie. So if my name was Hodge, I would be playing a version of myself. And that's too meta for me. So Hoff and Hodge needs to be own thing.
So it would be Hodgins playing Hodge. That
right,
you can do
which
that.
Is like a wink.
Yeah.
I can do that.
But you can't be Hodge playing Hodge.
No.
That's an interesting wrinkle.
That would be ridiculous.
So I have a question for you. In this movie, the amazing wizard Ulrich, he gets himself stabbed by a magical dagger. They burn him. He becomes dust. Hodge puts him in a sack. Later on, Galen dumps him in some fire water, and he pops up. If you had the option, like, all right, you and your like everybody, like your whole family, you're like, man, we got to get to Bermuda. Like, we got to go travel somewhere. But like, all the tickets are just so expensive. You get a magical dagger, and you learn that you could just, all right, guys, there's 20 of us. We all want to get to Hawaii, but flights are insane. I have a way. So if you tell them like, hey, it's safe. I'll wipe you all out, put you in sacks, bring you down, dump you in the water, and you pop up in Hawaii. Would that be a viable travel option for you? It's really dark, but would you try it, or would you do it to yourself?
So I would do it, 100%. I would do it, but if it had been tried for like a minimum of 3 years already, and no one had gotten lost yet, right? Like I don't want to like have someone spill my canister somewhere, and then I'm just dust. Like you know what I mean? So prove to me for you this is valid.
Oh, that's a good point, but you know the nice thing is you can only put a little bit of dust in a sack. Like you could put backup dust in 3 different sacks. You could have 3 contingency plans.
I think that you do it in a sack to begin with, but I think very quickly it would become a pneumatic tube situation.
Yeah, no, because that's plastic tubes, so you don't get hit, right? And you just take them with you.
It would be like that. It'd be like canisters of ooze from the Turtles.
Like if you and I want to go travel, right, to New Zealand to see the Shire. You and I are going to travel there to do MFF Con. And I'm like, and you're like, man, like, listen, Mark, like, I'm kind of broke. Can you turn me into ash and take me with you? To save a couple grand, would you do it?
Right. So I think the conversation would go, hey, Mark, I'm a little broke. Can the MFF pod carry my travel expenses? You would say, we can. And then I'd show up at your door and like, come for a second, you have a dagger in your hand. And I'm like, Mark, what's happening? He's like, no, hold it, trust me, it's going to be all right. And then you would stab me without me knowing. And then I'd just be in New Zealand. And I'd be like, what happened? And you're like, this is how we travel now, the magic dagger.
How mad would you be at me?
If I woke up in New Zealand, I wouldn't be mad. I'd be like, Mark, thank you. Because I wouldn't let you stab me.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't let you do that.
I packed all your stuff.
And then proved to me. Yeah, no, you've got all the stuff there, and you converted converted my Canadian money to American and then to Kiwi money, whatever whatever they use over there. I don't know.
And I got a good exchange rate. I didn't get like swindled. I went to the right place. I waited for the right day. I took care of you.
Exactly. No, for sure. That's a viable travel option as well.
We just could never tell
Mark,
anybody.
I have a question for you.
I'm working dark, but I just started thinking about this as like a means of travel.
So it's funny that you thought of this as an opening conversation starter. Mine was, what song do you think would be better as a trailer song if it wasn't scored? Would it be Dust in the Wind by Kansas? Or Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, Stop Dragging My Heart Around?
That's a great question. Stop dragging my heart around. No, Dust in the Wind? Wait,
by Kansas.
Oh, see, I wouldn't want that dust to be in the wind because that would be me.
No, exactly. It's not an ideal situation, but it's just a reference.
I kind of let's see.
That's
really interesting. I'll do Tom Petty. I like that. And also Last Dance with Mary Jane, because if you think about it, Last Dance with Mary Jane, this is kind of the last dance of the wizards before the pagan religions before Christianity took over in this country. Because, this is the end of the wizards and the dragons in one foul swoop.
Yeah, I talk about that every night at youth group. I'm like, sorry about the dragons. But anyways, so Mark, I got a question for you though. Let's talk for a second about the gimmick or the device of the last. So in this movie we have the last wizard, and in like Dragonheart it was the last dragon. And then or like there's the last Jedi.
And Reign of Fire was the last queen, right? Or like the queen.
Right. Is that ever a viable device? Because it never actually means the last one.
Has it ever meant the last one? Like the last Airbender? Is he the last?
I don't know, because there's the story of Korra afterwards, and they have all the Airbenders.
Well, what about the last stand? There could be a stand after that last stand, so it could be the second. Well, yeah, so that you can't even call it the last stand.
The last samurai? Was he really the last samurai?
Yeah. So
right, like I feel like it's an empty threat of like, I'm the last wizard. Well, you're not, because this other guy's going to become a wizard, so you're the second to last at best.
You have your Padawan to still work it out. And he won't wear as good of hats as you. Galen will not wear Ulrich's hats.
It's like the Undertaker or Ric Flair saying, this is my last match. We know it's not. We know you're going to be back.
And the dragon had babies, so I mean, one could still be popping around somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. Right? So I think Hollywood, because I know Hollywood's listening. Like, there's a board of directors at Hollywood, and they're listening right now.
Yep. They're just going like this right now. Yep. Like, write it down.
Stop using the last, right? Stop using the last. Enough.
You know, I do love that movie, The Last Dragon, and there's no dragons involved, but I don't think he's the last of the dragons.
He's not. Right? It's always a false, like, stake. I'm the last wizard. Clearly, you're not. And if you are the last wizard, that's your fault, right? Like, even in Game of Thrones, when they were like, yeah, the last dragon died years ago. Well, no, now there's 3 more. Mm-hmm. So I think we're going to be okay. Do you think Martin took some of the inspiration for Game of Thrones from this movie?
Well, it's his 5th favorite sci-fi film, and he said the name of the let me get the name of the dragon here. I say the name of the dragon all the time because it's probably the coolest name ever for a dragon. Why did I forget?
Yeah, it's a long one.
Verithamak. No, I have all my notes, and I hate when I do this. Where's the name of this dragon? What's going on here? Oh, Vermithrax. Sorry. Yeah, Vermithrax is amazing. And like he said, Vermithrax is the greatest name ever for a dragon, and he loves Ulrich as a wizard. He said Ulrich's one of the best wizards until Ian McKellen became Gandalf. So it's.
But even the name Valerian and Tyrion are in this movie.
Yeah. Well, Valerian's been around for 50 years. That was a comic book. But Tyrion had to have been.
Right, but Valerian.
Yeah. And then like.
Yeah.
Tyrion,
so I'm like. Yeah, I think he definitely took some of this and borrowed it. Okay, I also want to say this, Mark.
Well, think about this too. This is quite serious fantasy. Like, did you watch this as a child, I presume, correct?
So here's what I want to say. So I loved all of the fantasy Sword and Sandal movies of the 80s. I love them all. Beastmaster to this day is like my feel-good movie to watch. You know, those Conan movies were brilliant. Red Sonja, like all of them were great. Sword and the Sorceress, like all of them were fantastic. Hawk the Warrior, Hawk the Destroyer, whatever it was. And this one, I remembered watching it as a kid and just assumed it was great, and I loved it because I'm like, yeah, as a kid you watched it. Now this is a Disney movie, Mark.
Yeah, it's bleak.
This was like a weird, dark point in Disney's life, right? Where they were teaming up with Paramount to do some stuff and trying to find like a new kind of like feel to what was going on. This was the same era as like
the
Return to Oz, like that real dark Black Cauldron, right? Like that real like gnarly Disney movies. Also like Popeye the Sailor Man by Disney and Paramount came out like the year before. And like that's Robert Williams chews it apart, but it's a weird movie, right?
Yeah, that's an odd one. So they were going for it. They were going for it, right? Is that kind of what you're leading towards?
Well, I think they were going for it, but I don't think this movie knows what it is. Because would you say this is a kids movie, Mark?
No, A princess
But
is
would you say
eaten.
it's like,
A princess is there's nudity. A tiny dinosaur, a tiny dragon eats the flesh off of a princess who sacrifices herself to it. The end is very bleak with the king taking credit for it. Like, there's moral quandaries. This is an adult fantasy movie.
but do you feel like it was marketed and even went to like a full adult movie, not a full adult movie, but like I feel like they were kind of trying to do both things in 1981 when this came out.
Yeah, I mean,
Because it wasn't like or dark as like a movie that came out for adults, like a Mad Max or anything like that of the era. So I think they were like trying to have their cake and eat it. I think it was trying to be a Disney movie, but also trying to be like a mature movie. And I don't think it landed really well in either camp. And we kind of got this weird experiment happening in this movie.
yeah, I mean, I guess if you think about it, it was the director Matthew Robbins. He had just done some writing before this, and he helped write THX. George Lucas is THX 1138. He wrote Sugarland Express. Then he also brought in the ILM guys with him. So you have, Phil Tippett. You have some of the greatest minds ever building dragons.
Yeah.
And then you have a really pretty cool script about they basically said it's Fantasia. You get a kid who gets power and he kind of messes it up and he's in over his head. But it's...
Well, this came out right in the midst of the Star Wars trilogy too, right?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And Star Wars, I think it was magic because it was a kid's movie, but it was also dealt with such seriousness, like such respect for it, that it felt as an adult you watched it and loved it as well.
See, I love this movie though, but maybe it's because I watched it as an adult. So maybe it wasn't because I watched it when I was a kid, because there's like moral questions in here. We're giving two virgins a year to this dragon, and in return, the dragon lets us live. But then it turns out that the system is rigged. But then we find out that women are acting like, they're pretending that women are men. There's this weird, power dynamic going on with this dragon. And also, I think the explanation of this dragon might be one of the best things I've ever heard. When he's like, oh, I know this creature of yours, Vermithrax pejorative. Look at these scales, these ridges. When a dragon gets this old, it knows nothing but pain, constant pain. It grows decrepit, crippled, pitiful, spiteful. And I think this movie looks great. I think it looks like, I think the ILM guys did amazing things. But yeah, I think this movie fails because it's not like, Dragonheart we talked about, right? And
love it.
Sean Connery's kind of cuddly, and Dennis Quaid is like, whoa, he's very loud and bashful, and kids can watch it and enjoy it. This movie, Dragonslayer, ends on a very dour note. It's not a kids movie at all.
There's social commentary, there's religious commentary, there's lots of deep-rooted things going on. And you're like, do you feel that the dragon is the villain, or do you feel like he's a victim? Like there's a real quandary there, right? Like just kind of like leave him alone. He's in constant pain. But I will say this, if you go back and listen to our 13th Warrior episode, we talked in great length that in-camera effects and worlds will always look good.
Yeah.
And so this movie looks great, and it will never age because it was all practical sets, worn in, lived in world. Everything was gritty and dirty and looked like it had years of wear on it. The thing was new. Mm-hmm. And it looks great. I feel this movie's 20 minutes too long. It's really slow. It really takes a long time. It's a slow burn to get where you need to go. And I think they were following the Jaws model of don't show the monster until a certain point through the movie, let it be a build. But I think with Jaws, why it worked was they wanted to show the shark, but it wasn't working. Mm-hmm. So then Spielberg had to get smart and say, okay, we're going to have these yellow jugs going around and we're going to make do, and it actually worked better. I think when they're trying to do that inorganically, it just comes across as a really, really slow burn. I famously have said, Lord of the Rings, to me, especially the extended cut, it's I know it's grand and it's fantastic, whatever. It is a long watch. It is a chore. There's just a lot of walking in that movie, and I feel like this movie there was a lot of walking going on.
It takes its time, but so I watched the hour-long making of documentary about this, and they did their best to get the dragon on screen. Like, they built a 20-foot head of the dragon to get it to work, but they had to crane it in. They built a giant tail, and the director, he was a new guy, so he didn't quite use his time well, he said. So he'd be on set and he's like, I don't know what to do. He's like, let's just drop the tail on that cart. Let's go drag the tail this way. Let's have a bunch. So I think, and then also too, with the go motion that they created on this, that Phil Tippett created, they wanted to show more dragon, but they didn't want to use blue screen. So they wasted a lot of time trying to shoot the dragon without blue screen, but then they realized they needed blue screen. So sometimes I wonder if there would have been more dragon in this movie had they had more, because they had to shoot this movie before he jumped into Empire. So they kind of just shot it, and so sometimes I wonder if they had the effects better, if they could have shown more of the dragon.
Have you seen the Go Motion stuff they did for Jurassic Park that they eventually like swapped out for CGI?
Yeah, it breaks my heart, man. Like, it looks awesome, but the CGI looks great too.
It looks cool. Yeah. No, Jurassic Park is a classic, but when you look and there's like a Phil Tippett Go Motion version of that movie out there somewhere.
Dude, release the Phil. I watched Mad God recently. That's like one of the craziest movies, and I absolutely adore it. And he's a delight to. So I just talked about Piranha, and I talked about this. So I've been on a Phil Tippett kick lately. But what about the dragon?
Nice.
We've talked Reign of Fire. We've talked Dragonheart. We've talked Ladyhawke. There's no dragons in that, but there's still magic and all that kind of stuff. Like, where does this dragon rate? Where does this dragon sort of rate for you? Like, people love this dragon.
Yeah, so I think visually this dragon is great. The amount of work it took to get him on screen in multiple different ways, I think is fantastic. I wish this dragon was redeemed at the end.
Yeah.
Like, I wish he wasn't the victim of, corporate greed of the king. Like, you know what I mean?
He and Ulrich just blow up together. That'd be funny if he and Ulrich just rode off to Rhode Island and just sort of started a cover band there,
Right. Like, it just seemed like these guys are going to kill this painful old dragon. And granted, the dragon was doing stuff that he shouldn't have been doing. That's as much as I'll say about it. But it was like, it didn't make you feel good at the end. And I like a feel good. I like a movie to be good. Like, I like a happy ending.
That's why I liked it.
The world is.
That's why. Listen, like, watching this movie and I didn't. Okay, so when I went into this film, I hadn't watched this for years, but the 4K was released, and there's a lot of buzz about this movie because I think it's a good movie. Like, Del Toro loves this. Del Toro's a huge fan. He actually worked with Matthew Robbins. Matthew Robbins wrote the Pinocchio movie that just won an Oscar for it. And what I love about it is it asks questions. You have the king, right? So the king isn't even that evil. There's shades of gray. He's like, listen, we give these virgins, it's not great, but our land is safe. But I have been rigging it. And then you learn that his daughter learns that, and she goes and sacrifices herself and gets eaten by a tiny baby. Like, she's not even a brat. She's like, listen, this is my bad. Like, I'm going to go take care of this. And then you have Peter MacNicol, who's an idiot.
Every one of those questions.
What's up?
Every one of those questions, though, Mark, that you just said with the king, like, would you rig it to save your daughter? Yeah, probably.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so, like, even the guy hides his daughter as a girl, as a boy, to keep her safe. So how many people were picked instead of her? And then, the dragon's just in its cave, and idiot Galen just drops some rocks on it. And I just think, like, even like all the security guards in this, like, the main knights that work for him, they're like, listen, don't bring a wizard back. You're gonna piss this dragon off, and it's gonna kill the hell out of us. So it's like everyone here makes sense. And at the end, though, when Ulrich is dead, when the dragon is dead, and the king comes up and stabs it in the heart, and then they're like, yeah, our king did it, and then God delivered this. And then, Ulrich or Valerian and Galen are just wandering away to go do what they wanted. It's like a downer ending, but it's kind of funny. And for me, I was so happy that the movie had the guts to end like that, because it's a downer ending. And I liked it. I did. Because you know what? When a movie subverts my expectations, like, I had no expectations for this movie. and I don't need my expectations to be subverted, but when it pulls a fastball on me, I go, oh man, this is a cynical ending. It made me happy. That's why I love this. That's why I kind of called you up. I was like, hey, you want to talk about this? Because
this ending made Mark happy.
Yeah.
I love that.
Because, like, I don't know. I think sometimes when you watch movies, like, a character needs to die. Like, no, a character does not need to die. Because most of the time that character is Quicksilver from Avengers Age of Ultron. Like, it's never the main character. So, for this movie, and also, too, like, Ulrich is awesome. Ralph Richardson is so good in this movie. Hodge is good. I think Peter MacNicol, he's fine. He's a little bit of a wet noodle. But
he did have success eventually because he grew up to be that museum curator in New York later on.
And he was in Dracula Dead and loving it. So strawberry?
Right.
Strawberry. But yeah, did you see that spider?
I think Peter MacNicol was miscast. He is not a leading man, I don't think.
Yeah, and I hate to hate, but he just didn't get much to do in this movie. Yeah. Because he's not quite a bumbling idiot in this movie, but he's not also like a hero. And I like the inspired casting, but I just don't think he registers. Like, for me, this movie registers with the gigantic sets that they built in Pinewood on the James Bond stages, the work by Phil Tippett, the cynicism of it, like, and just that speech about the dragon though being in pain and bitter and angry. I was like, whoa, this is cool writing. And Vermithrax and Valerian and Tyrion. Even the wide shots of just the vast expanse of, like, just the beautiful places where they shot. So that's for me. When I think about this movie, I don't think about Galen.
This has all the right ingredients, right? Like, if you're gonna say, hey Adam, what would be your ideal movie ever? I'm like, it'd be like a 1980s movie. It'd be like a fantasy film. We'd have like real sets. It'd be dragons. It'd be like, it would just be exactly what you described. I just feel like this one was left in the oven a little too long.
And that's fair because, so a couple things. This was made because of the D&D craze at the time. And then you had a first-time director. You had a dragon that took a lot of work to make. So they probably shot extra footage. They probably worked around it. They probably went for something a little darker, but they should have gone for something lighter. So I think there's a reason why it wasn't a gigantic financial success. And then Indiana Jones opened 2 weeks after it, which killed it. But it's worthy of a cult audience because of the craft of it and the cynicism of it. Like, this is never, like, I guess what you're saying, Adam, if I was the head of Disney and I put a lot of money into this and I watched it, I'll be like, I love this movie, but you've lost me money. Like, that's what I would say to the people who made it.
I think there's an edit of this movie out there that's 15 minutes shorter that just has a couple more, like, a little more beats at the first, third of the movie. It just seems to drag, and by the time things get going, I felt like I was exhausted watching it.
Are we talking about? But see, when I messaged you about this, you said you watch it once a year and you love it. So this is a curveball I'm getting hit with here.
No, so I do watch it once a year because it's in my nostalgic trio of Beastmaster, Red Sonja, and Dragonslayer. But I love the movie, but I'm not unaware of what it actually is.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Got it.
So, like, I love Superman Returns, but I'm also not aware that it's a bit of a boring movie, right? Like, that movie again has all the right ingredients. Brendan Routh is a killer Superman. Kevin Spacey is a dynamite Lex Luthor. There's some still visuals in that movie which are dynamite, and the fact that it's an homage to Reeve, I'm like, that's great. The fact that Brando was in it again, I was like, yes, it just was left in the oven a little too long, and there was just, like, some missing bits there. I still love it for what it is.
But I love that movie though because of Parker Posey and that guy, the piano scene, and just when they're stabbing Superman, and the fact that James Marsden comes and saves him. That movie, it's long, but you know what? Maybe I just like movies where, like, okay, so Superman Returns wasn't as dark as Batman v Superman, but it was definitely more violent than the OG. Yeah. And so when I walked into that movie, I wasn't a Superman guy when Superman Returns came around. I've never been a Superman guy. But then I watched it and I went, oh, this is interesting. They take his powers away. They're stabbing him. James Marsden's flying in as a pilot. Like, Parker Posey's being cool. The guy with the tattoo is good on the piano. Like, there's a weird darkness to it. So maybe I'm drawn to movies that.
So I think that movie is one decision away from being a smash out hit, best superhero movie ever. Parker Posey should have been Lois Lane.
Well, yeah, because you know what? She would bring so much personality to it. Like I don't really remember Bosworth in Superman Returns.
No, she didn't do much. She was just a prop. But Parker Posey, if you watch every scene that has Posey and Ralph in it, those two are electric together.
Yeah, she's the best. The P-pose.
She is the best.
So what would you do if she was what would you do if she was Ulrich in this movie?
Well, I would have given this movie 2 enthusiastic thumbs up.
What if her name was Ulrich and she played everything the same, but she was just Parker Posey as Ulrich?
Parker Posey? I feel like there'd be a lot of winking at the camera.
So, I've been in that ash the whole time. Why'd you take it so long to throw me in the fire water?
Guys, I was there the whole time. It would have been great.
But this is the thing, though. It's from the beginning, right? When Ulrich just gets stabbed to death, and then they burn him, and then he shows up like an idiot, then he de-dresses Hodge, and then Hodge gets an arrow in him. He's like, but I can still talk. And just, you know, this guy's an idiot. You know what I kind of like? There is some humor in here because, you know, our hero, Peter MacNicol, Galen, he's an idiot. He's not there yet. He's overconfident. He shows up to this kingdom, starts a whole bunch of crap. Like Valerian's way cooler than he is. She makes him the sweetest shield on the history of the planet, like a dragon scaled shield. This one nice guy gives him a blade, and he doesn't even get it done at the end. Ulrich does. So it's kind of interesting watching this guy sort of fail his way up, and eventually all he has to do is smash something at the right time.
Right. So it's interesting. When I was in high school, so grade 10. We moved from northern Ontario to like southern Ontario. And so we as a family went to a new church. And so we went to St. George Anglican Church. And so all the Anglican churches are named after a saint. And so I was like, oh, I wonder what St. George's story is. And are you aware of St. George's story? Like in the Catholic Church, the patron saint, St. George.
Did he fight dragons?
He saved a virgin from a dragon that was going to destroy a town. Like this movie takes beats from St. George's story. And so it's interesting that they played the religious card of like, oh, you know, God delivered us from this dragon, because that's exactly what the Catholic Church says.
Oh, wow. I did not know that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, I think, but that they were smart to bring in religion with this film as well, right? Which probably tied in later with the mythos of St. George. But you know what's crazy too? Who's the villain? Like, is there any mustache twirling villain in this movie?
No, that's the thing. I would say there isn't a definite hero. Like they want us to think that Galen's a hero, but he's not. Mm-mm. He's just there. So there isn't necessarily a hero, and there isn't necessarily a villain. I think this is just a snapshot of like an event that happened, and no one's really the protagonist or antagonist.
Do you think that's why? Like when you watch Indiana Jones, who's the protagonist?
Oh no, it's Indy. So here's the thing, Mark, and this is the way I look at movies a lot now, especially, you know, in hindsight. If this was going to be a toy line, who's the must-have figure? Like who's the Superman of the line?
Oh well, it's Vermithrax, Force. But I mean,
you buy the dragon.
Yeah.
But the dragon's the only interesting character. Not interesting, but is the only like aspirational character. You don't as a child want to be any of these characters.
If the queen came with eatable pieces that fell off with the baby dragons, I would do that. What do you think?
Yes. So I'm going to get super toy nerdy on you.
No, go. Because I was going to ask you what you would do.
No, but as an adult toy collector, yeah, that would be a cool collectible. But as a kid, as a 10-year-old kid in 81, which one of these characters do you want to be? Like, which one are you aspiring to be?
Not brother.
I don't think.
Not brother Jacobus, Ian McDiarmid, the Emperor. I would probably be Hodge, because Hodge is just, I could just talk smack to people with Hodge. Like he has a pack.
Right, but
what I'm saying is, no. The only reason I would want Galen is if he came with a shield and a spear. And like a tiny dino to kill. Like they would have to load the pack up with a ton of stuff for me to want the hero.
The dragon scale shield is the best thing about this movie. Making you shield in dragon scales, that's a cool concept. I love that.
Mm-hmm. What would you release? What's your toy release? So you're Mattel. It's 1981.
Yeah.
And you're the new guy. And they're like, hey, Hodge, We need you to come up with a toy line for Dragonslayer. Disney's back
So
in
I thought about this a lot.
Paramount's back. They like, we're gonna screen this movie for you. You get to go to the Skywalker Ranch, watch this movie.
Yeah.
Speak with the director, right? Hang out, and then you got to come back and you have to design a line. 3 figures and 1 creature. What are you gonna? Oh no, it's up to you. However line you want, because you know more about toy lines. So what are you doing? What are you gonna do?
I thought about this quite a bit because I knew you were going to ask, and I love that you ask me this question every time. It's my favorite thing. I would talk to Marvel Comics because they were partners. They did some stuff back in the day, and say, I want you to write a prequel story about dragons before this movie, and then I would just release a line of dragons, and each dragon would come with a knight or a wizard figure from before the movie happened. So it's building that world and comic books leading up to it. So that when you get to the movie, or when you watch the movie, you're like, oh, this is the world. This is the end of that story. But so you don't get drudged down with making these like kind of adult characters. You get to sell more dragons because really kids want to play with dragons.
Yeah.
And then you can say like each of these dragons comes with a knight or a wizard that was like an aspirational character that they have their own comic book leading up to it. So I make a prequel toy line.
Oh, I like that. That sells. Because, if someone sees the movie, they're not going to sprint out and get a Galen character.
No. If you're in the toy store and you see Dragonslayer on the box, and there's these, 8 different dragons to pick from, you're going to want them all.
I'm going to ask you a crazy question, right?
I love this.
You could have Todd McFarlane. Todd McFarlane actually crafts the toys, right? The figures, correct?
He did. He's got a team now that does it, but back in the day, he was very involved.
Peak Todd McFarlane walks up to you and was like, hey, Hodge, what's going on, bruh? Like, we had a good time in Vegas last weekend. Like, don't tell anybody what happened.
That's exactly how Tough Guy Todd talks.
And then you two give each other, a quick high five, and then, you kind of, slug each other's arms. And then you're like, yeah, bro, I got you.
Right.
Todd McFarlane's like, listen, man, because you're so cool in Vegas last weekend, I will make you custom dragon figures. 3 dragons from any film ever released. I will make you one of a kind. You can't sell them, because these things would go for $20,000 on eBay. You can't sell them, but you can have 3 dragons from any 3 movies, TV shows, whatever you want. But it has to be on film or TV. You can pick 3 of them. Which 3 dragons would you pick? Right.
That's a great question. I would definitely pick a screen accurate Draco from Dragonheart.
Yeah.
That dragon would be great. I would want a Rain of Fire dragon. And because Todd does all the sculpts, but I want it flying and breathing fire down on a tank. But the tank and the fire is the stand, so that the dragon is held up in place by the fire blast coming out of his mouth, so it looks like it's flying. I got to think that would be a great moment. And then this is gonna throw you back, my friend. But a very highly articulated, detailed Pete's dragon from the old Disney cartoon Pete's dragon.
Oh, that would look amazing. Yeah, no.
I love that movie. I love that.
So I'm taking Vermithrax.
Yeah.
I'm taking Rain of Fire. Oh gosh. Yeah, I like your picks though. Those are good picks. So I have Vermithrax, I have Rain of Fire, and then what's the giant dragon from How to Train Your Dragon? How to Train Your Dragon.
The
huge one.
The big
The Red Death? Oh no, I want the what's that one? There's let me pull up his name. There's gigantic dragons. I would have the Bewilder Beast.
Yeah. It's a good dragon.
That thing's awesome looking. Because I already have Toothless in the other one. I have a bunch of dragons from the How to Train Your Dragon. I think I'm a dragon guy, and I don't even realize it.
No, I describe you as dragon guy to my friends. I'm like, I got this friend Mark who's a dragon guy.
I mean, I go to Dragon Con. I love the scene in Dungeons and Dragons with the big dragon, the chunky dragon.
That dragon's a great pull.
Oh man, I love that thing. But no, you know what I love though is, I think so many movies. I would say Vermithrax, the way it's explained, I would love to see more of it. But when Vermithrax has the gills, right? They go motion those gills onto it. They put ball bearings as eyes. Phil Tippett worked wonders with that thing. And when it sees its dead babies, how pissed off it is. But that whole thing about it's tired and it's old and it's hurting and it's in pain and it's spiteful, like that was a crazy way to explain a dragon. And I really like that about it. I never thought Vermithrax was the ultimate evil, but I do think that was just an interesting way. Like there's been so many monsters in movies that I feel nothing for. But Vermithrax,
Right.
I really did. Like I liked the idea of this old, cranky, brutal dragon who's just tired of it. Like,
Right.
leave me alone, guys. Like, just leave me alone. I could kill all of you. It's a
Right.
really interesting thing to do. And I just like that idea of it a lot.
Mark, what did you think about Aragon, the dragon movie with Jeremy Irons?
Yeah, I watched that back maybe 06, 07. It felt so vanilla to me. Like it kind of felt like people made it, but they didn't care about it, and so I just didn't care about it. Like there's no love there.
Yeah, I felt there was a lot of missed opportunity in that dragon movie. I'm like, they could have went awesome places.
I mean, like, dragons are cool. Give me dragons. Give me Phil Tippett making dragons.
That'd be cool.
What would be cooler, a Vermithrax dragon, or if Todd McFarlane could recreate Phil Tippett's puppet from?
So I think, Mark, we need to, because again, Hollywood's listening. It's like bring back practical monsters. You know what the scariest dragon of my life on television was? In 1992, there was a made-for-TV miniseries of Alice in Wonderland. I think it was called Through the Looking Glass. And then there was like the Jabberwocky monster dragon was like coming through the mirror at the end, and it was like filmed and shot. It's terrifying. But it was like and then I watched the making of it a few years ago, and there's like just this like janky puppet, but it looked so good. It was real. Like it was really there on set. You know what I mean?
That's why this movie holds up, though, right? That's why the great movies hold up.
Right.
And
100%.
I don't know, but I love this movie, man. I know that you kind of like.
I love this movie. I love it. I'm just very aware of its flaws.
But you know what? Like, I've never seen a movie like this before that's so cynical and has so much like areas of gray and no mustache. Like, it's a very mature film to talk. Like, you could watch this film with, I don't know, your teenage kid, and then talk about the themes, not like the virginity and stuff, but you could talk about the themes of it, and like, you know what I mean? Like, hey, how do you feel about the virgins being eaten by dragons? But you could talk about like, listen, who was right, who was wrong, who is the dragon, like who is the hero? Like, you could have a conversation, and I think in this day and age,
it almost feels like a historical movie, right? Like if you watched Oppenheimer this year, you come out of there and say, okay, was he a good guy or a bad guy? Like, who was right, who was wrong? And you talk about it, but you're like, this is a thing that happened in history, and we can talk about that, and there's repercussions, and you can look back. I feel like this movie feels like that, but it's about dragons, right? It's just like, here's this thing that these people did to solve a problem. Was it right or wrong to do that?
Imagine like a Few Good Men or Oppenheimer style movie. Or like Primal Fear, but they're putting like Galen on trial.
Right.
But see, I think there's so many disposable movies that we can talk about. Like, listen, I love Dragonheart. We had a wonderful conversation about it. But you're not going to go discussing that movie afterwards. It's just a fun movie to watch with that's mainly known for its visual effects and Connery Dragon. What I like about this one...
Nobody's going to discuss it in film class.
Yeah, this one, though, really surprised me. And you know what? I think I should have said this earlier. Not expectations or twists, but when a movie can surprise me and just make me go, huh. Like, that's when I know it's successful. And listen, there's a reason why this movie wasn't a hit. We've established that. This movie was not a hit. But at the end, I really dig it. Because at least it made me sit there and just go, huh. That's interesting. Like, that's new. And this was 81. So, I don't know. I very rarely get the thoughts that the feelings I have watching movies that this one had. It feels like a very mature movie. And I dig what they were going for.
Do you know why I love this movie, Mark, and why I watch it annually? It's because there was a time in our world before the internet where you would go to a video rental place, and it was like going on an archaeological expedition.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's the new releases area, and you stick to those. You're like, oh, Speed came out, we're gonna go rent Speed, and then Shawshank, we're gonna go rent Shawshank. But every now and then, nothing new, and you would venture back, and as a kid, you had no idea how old these movies were. You just knew they were before so I was born in 81, so Dragonslayer came out the year I was born. So when I watched it in like 88, 89, I didn't know it was 7 years old. To me, it was just an old movie. Mm-hmm. And because of the artwork on the covers, like this painted movie style poster that was on the cover of this thing,
beautiful,
with the dragon wingspan behind and the fire behind them, and they kind of have that Star Wars look, where it was like a painted poster. There's no way to say, oh, this looks like it's from 80s. It just looks old. It just looks like it has a history to it. So you went back and you're like, okay, this is the one I'm gonna like pick from history and watch tonight. And then you watch it and you didn't know when it was from. You just knew it was older than you, and you committed to it. You didn't ever turn a movie off as when we rented it, because it was like, this is our movie. This is the only one we have.
And is that why? Like, kind of just feelings when you were younger and in finding this?
Yeah.
Or like, yeah.
I remember finding it, seeing the poster, the cover, and being like, this movie is going to be amazing. It's got a dragon in it breathing fire on these people. Like, this is going to be amazing. And then you watched it, and you got through it as a kid. And then I think you don't remember it being slow moving as a child. You just remember like there was a dragon. And like when it came out in DVD, I think it was like 2003 it came out on DVD. And that's when I started watching it annually, because I was very excited about buying it on when it came out on DVD. I remember being like explaining it to my wife, and she's like, what's this movie about? I'm like, oh, it's this guy, and then he gets a dragon scale shield and he fights a dragon. That was my memories of it as a kid.
Hour 40 minutes go by, and then he gets it.
And then he gets it. And I'm like, oh, there it is. We found it.
Listen, I guess I don't have that history with it. And I do think that I would be a bit bummed if I was a Disney exec and I saw this. I'd be like, I love this movie, but we're screwed. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just, I think it's one of my favorite dragon movies. I do.
Do you think we're now ready for a Dragonslayer Disney Plus series?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Let it be.
I mean, like you watch Andor or Ahsoka, like they care about Star Wars. Those TV shows are wildly intelligent. So if you can get someone who cares, like a Guillermo del Toro or a George R.R. Martin, or you know what I mean, like someone who cares.
Like, I think you and I could do it.
Yeah, because there's politics already, right? There's a love story built into it. There's a lot of characters who work in gray. There's bags of sand, which I love. Of human dust.
Yep.
I'm big on those. There's a lot there to think about, and to you could look at every side. Like, listen, if we piss this dragon off, like 10 years ago, this dragon got annoyed and killed 700 people. And then we just went, okay, here's your virgin, and that was it. We gave 2 virgins a year, that was it. If we make it mad, it kills 700 people. Or it's either 2 people or 700 people. But then other people are like, this isn't right. We need to fight. Like, it's...
Right.
There's 6 episodes right there.
Yeah. And I think you could do also a prequel show called Dragonslayers, plural.
Z.
And that's the prequel when there was lots of dragons around.
That'll be more expensive, so that'll be 3 episodes. That'll be a 90-minute movie.
Yeah.
Dragons are expensive.
Yeah. Okay. I'll call Disney to get this set up.
Well, I'm on the phone with them right now. You just want me to talk to them?
Just let them know that we've got a plan for next fall.
Disney called me up and they're like, listen, whenever you record, just put us a phone there and we're going to have an intern listen and take notes. So They got it.
But hey
Chuck, how you doing? How you doing, Chuck? Good to hear from you. Glad you take good notes for us, all right? Hope Disney's treating you well.
But in Dragonslayer fashion, Mark, we would pitch it to Disney. Like, here is the Dragonslayer show. Here's what it's going to be. And we storyboard it. And we
toy line.
Cast it. Come up with the toy line, to tie in the merch. And then the intern steps up with his sword and says, and that was my idea. And he takes all the credit for it like the king.
That'd be amazing. And then you and I just walk away and go to In-N-Out Burger and we're like, what just happened?
Yeah, we put so much effort into this quest.
But then, and then the show becomes like a giant hit.
Yeah, a huge hit. A huge hit.
And then it's like, the intern does it.
So what Easter egg would you write into the script that we could say that proves that it was that we did it?
Oh, I mean, we would have to Gabe Walker. We'd have to have a character called Gabe Walker.
I was gonna say a mountain burger.
Yeah.
Some kind of mountain burger reference.
Mountain burgers, and then we would also need like a Lundgren's front kick in there. So
in a kitchen fight.
Yeah. Oh. All right. So Bruce Campbell is the cranky chef, and Sean Astin is I don't know. He's the king, and then they get into a big old kitchen brawl.
What was the Bruce Campbell Daredevil movie I came up with and made a poster for it?
Bozo Rodeo.
Bozo Rodeo and the cannon. It was Cannonball. Were you human Cannonball?
No, yeah, we need to find that. That's beautiful.
That was brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, listen.
Yeah.
We have the recordings anyway, so we're safe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, exactly, and they're so highly listenable that it's great.
And once we take the intern to court, we'll be fine.
It's funny you mentioned Dolph Lundgren and his front kick because absolutely need to have that. Last week I premiered a video on my channel where I did a redeco of a Castle Grayskull to be like the movie, and I definitely sent the link to Dolph Lundgren. I haven't heard his opinion on it yet, but I know he has the link to it. I mean, I sent it to his Instagram.
He's probably figuring out how to steal it.
Yeah, he's looking trying to get. I'm gonna get a letter for royalties. Which I would gladly pay.
Oh man. Well, talk about your channel, man. Tell me about your channel.
Yeah, so over on the GoFigure channel, we just kind of like restore and make custom toys from the 80s and early 90s, and we have a lot of fun doing it. And we also talk about toys on there in a couple different episodes, but there's a lot of toy channels out there that get angry about adult collectibles, and we are only having fun, Mark. If you come to our channel, we'll have fun and we'll make stuff. That's the only two things I can promise you.
And I don't watch or listen to many shows, but I like yours because, like I said, we were talking earlier, something happens in your show, and you have a unique angle. And I tell you, Megan always stops when you start like designing stuff. She goes, "Oh," she like likes watching the designing of it. Like she loves that kind of stuff, and she's like, "He knows that. Like he knows how to use that." So yeah, it's cool. It's really cool. I love it.
It's funny that you say that because that's been the thing. So whenever you started any kind of content, you're like, what are people going to show up for, right? So like I firmly believe that half of your audience, Mark, shows up just for your intros of your guests. I think that is like a bit you do that is funny and always. The 3D time lapse modeling that I do has really become a thing people look forward to. Here it comes. Yeah. And so that's like it's funny that Megan, people seem to really, really like that. So I'm like, I'll keep putting that in all my episodes.
I always know when Megan likes something because she just stops and starts staring at it. Like she doesn't do that much, but sometimes she'll just stop and look. It's like when I watch Scott Adkins movies with my father-in-law. He just stares at the TV from about 4 feet away.
Is that how you knew she liked you when you met her? You saw her and you're like, hey, my name's Mark, and she just stopped and stared at you?
I don't think she liked me at first, so I had to win her over.
I don't believe that at all. I think to know Mark Hoffmeyer is to love Mark Hoffmeyer is what I believe.
Oh man, well we hit it off pretty quick.
Yeah, no, it's funny. First thing I met, you're like, hey, I'm Mark. Just did a Tough Mudder.
Yeah, and I screwed up my ankle for a year. But I think
like, cool. I've never done anything at all.
I think there are certain people on this planet who you're on the same wavelength with. Like so I had one of my former students, Mitch, right? She's cool. She's like one of the coolest students I've ever had. Before she was even in my class, we saw each other one day. We didn't even know each other, but we just gave each other a head nod. Like we just sort of like,
nice.
We both just sort of went, all right, I think we're cool. Like, and then so every day when she walked by, we gave each other head nods. And I taught her in the class, and she's awesome. Like I think there's people in this world who you're on the same wavelength with, if that makes sense.
100%. 100%.
Well, listen, dude.
It's been great. Mark,
we planned this for months, and so I'm glad we did it. And we have the Punisher series coming up. We have Blood and Bone coming up, so we got some fun stuff to cover.
Are you excited about Blood and Bone?
Yeah, dude, bathroom fights, great bathroom fights. Yeah. And listen, Michael Jai White's awesome. So we need to bring our A game on that because he follows me. So he follows a lot of people, but it'd be nice to get a Michael Jai White listen, you know?
We should get him on the show.
We should. Just chat.
Let's reach out.
I like it. Yeah.
Let's reach out and get him on the show.
Just be like, hey, you want to talk?
Let's dream.
Let's talk.
So I'll tell you this, Mark. Every year I go up to a camp up north, and I'm the speaker of the week. and I bring my computer and I download a bunch of movies on my computer. And then in the evenings when I'm in my cabin, I watch movies. I was running out of disk space on my computer recently, so I did a clean sweep, and I forgot my external hard drive at home. So when I got to camp, I only had 2 movies on my computer for the whole week. Those movies were Blood and Bone and Deep Blue Sea.
Oh.
I watched each of those movies 3 times that week.
We still need to get you on for the Deep Blue Sea toy episode. We're not done with that.
Yeah, that's going to be the Deep Blue Pod.
It's doing well.
And after watching it 3 times, it's still a great movie. Blood and Bone does not disappoint.
Because it's a good movie. Like, Blood and Bone's a good action picture.
Right.
All right. I love it, man. Well, thanks for joining me. Oh, sorry.
It's been a pleasure, and we'll talk about Blood and Bone next time we talk.
I love it, man. Well, for me, Mark Hoffmeyer, for Adam Hodge, this is Movies, Films, and Flicks. Go check out GoFigure on YouTube. This is Movies, Films, and Flicks. We'll see you next week.